So let's get into it. We're going to tackle one of the biggest questions out there, right? Why do we suffer? But we're going to look at it through the lens of Islamic tradition. And it's not just about how do we get through it, but how can faith actually help us find meaning in the tough stuff?
I mean, it's a question that hits close to home for so many people of faith, isn't it? That quiet thought you have when you're just worn down by it all. And it's important to remember, asking this isn't about rejecting faith. Not at all. It's a real, honest attempt to go deeper and just understand.
And you know what? This isn't some new, modern crisis of faith. No way. This question has been at the very center of Islamic thought for ages, pushing some of the greatest minds to really grapple with it. In fact, we're about to meet one of them right now.
Okay, let's talk about Imam al-Ghazali. We're talking about a superstar scholar from the 11th century. I mean, this guy had it all: fame, respect, a great family, but then a massive internal crisis hits him. It gets so bad that it affects him physically. He gets sick, depressed, and at one point he literally can't even speak. But here's the thing, his suffering wasn't the end. It was actually the beginning of something huge, a journey that would change Islamic thought forever. And his story is going to be our anchor for this whole conversation.
All right, section 1, the unavoidable question. So how does the Islamic tradition even start to tackle this? Well, the first big idea is a mindset shift. Hardship isn't seen as some random interruption to your life. It's actually seen as a built-in, essential part of the deal. Yeah, the whole point is that going through a tough time doesn't mean your faith is broken or that you've done something wrong. It's actually the opposite. It's presented as something to be expected, something with a purpose on your spiritual journey. It's like it's woven right into the fabric of what it means to believe.
And this verse from the Quran just cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? It basically says, hey, did you think saying I believe was the end of it? It's suggesting that real faith isn't just about what you say, it's about what you do, how you show patience and trust when things get tough. Trials are like the proving ground, the arena where your faith gets real.
Okay, so if we're supposed to expect trials, the obvious next question is why? Why do they happen? And this is where things get really interesting. Early Islamic thinkers had this huge, fascinating debate about it, and they came up with a whole range of answers.
So you kind of had two main camps. On one side, you had thinkers who were all about divine justice. Their take was, look, any suffering has to have a purpose, and that purpose has to be for our benefit. But then on the other side, you had scholars who focused more on God's absolute power. They argued that, our little human ideas of good and bad just can't possibly wrap around a divine plan that's on a whole other level.
But what's really cool is that across all these different viewpoints, this one key idea kept popping up: hikmah. That's the Arabic word for divine wisdom. It's this core belief that even when things look like total chaos, like just random, senseless pain, there's a higher purpose at play. There's a reason for it, even if we can't see it right away.
And building on that idea of wisdom, you get the concept of iwad. This really gets at that question of fairness, right? It's basically the idea of divine compensation. It's a promise that none of your suffering is invisible or forgotten. You will be compensated for it, whether that's here in this life or in the next.
And then there's this beautiful concept called lutf, or divine kindness. This one really flips the script. It suggests that even the things that feel incredibly harsh are at their root coming from a place of compassion. It's like a hidden kindness, something that's actually working for your long-term good, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment.
Okay, so we've talked about the big theological why. But that naturally leads to the practical how, right? If there's a purpose to all this, then how are you supposed to actually deal with it?
And check out this prophetic saying. It is a total game changer in how you look at hardship. Instead of being a sign that God has abandoned you or is angry with you, a trial can actually be seen as a sign of love, a sign of attention. It's a way God is getting directly involved in shaping who you are, in shaping your soul.
So to help you navigate these tests, the tradition gives you this amazing spiritual toolkit. First up is sabr. Now, this isn't just sitting back and taking it. It's an active, strong, patient endurance. And from that place of patience, you can then practice shukr, which is gratitude, being thankful for what you still have. And that combination leads to the third tool, tafakkur, which is all about deep reflection, digging in to find the lessons and the wisdom that are hidden inside the hardship.
So you see what's happening here? It's a total transformation of the experience. You go from being a passive victim of your circumstances to an active participant in your own growth. You're literally using the hardship as fuel to get closer to God.
So all this high-level theology is great, but it begs a really important question. How does this stuff actually play out in the real world, in society?
How does a community take care of people who are suffering?
I mean, just to put this in perspective, think about this. The UN says there are 650 million people around the world living with disabilities. That's a huge number. And the Islamic legal tradition looked at this reality and said, okay, we need a system. We need a real framework to support people.
And this is what that looks like in practice. Islamic jurisprudence, what's known as fiqh, laid out specific rules to make sure people with disabilities were treated with dignity and included in society. And this wasn't just nice ideas on paper. We're talking about coded rights to jobs, to medicine, to financial help through things like zakah, and protecting their right to get married and have a family. It's a whole system designed to be a community safety net.
Okay, so this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. This is where everything we've talked about, the theology, the personal practices, the community support, it all comes together in this really powerful idea about how we tell the story of our own suffering.
So a researcher named Arthur Frank found that people basically tell 3 kinds of stories about their struggles. First, there's the chaos narrative. That's the why me, everything's falling apart story. Then there's the restitution narrative, which is all about, I just want my old life back. I just want to be normal again. But then there's the third one, the quest narrative. And this one changes everything. It reframes the whole experience not as a dead end, but as a journey with things to learn and a purpose to find.
And this brings us right back to where we started, with Imam al-Ghazali. He absolutely began in that chaos narrative, right? His whole world was collapsing. But he didn't get stuck there. He turned it into a quest. He went on this 11-year journey to figure things out. And that suffering, that crisis, is what led him to write one of the most important books in Islamic history. His pain started a quest.
And that's really the heart of it. The Islamic tradition, with its theology and all those spiritual tools we talked about, basically gives you a roadmap for making that shift. It gives you what you need to move past the chaos, to get beyond just wanting your old life back, and to actively choose to see your life as a quest, to turn that pain into a real purpose.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. We live in a world that's obsessed with quick fixes, with just getting back to normal as fast as possible. But what if the whole point isn't about escaping the trial? What if the real growth, the real wisdom, is found in the person you become while you're making your way through it?